Let's do this.
3,
Three,
2,
two,
1.
one.
Let's go! Skip out!
We back.
Here we are, man. We're coming to the end of this year we call 2020. And man, we brought in an incredible show, but man, before that, you're out in California. Not too far from me, but far enough where we don't get to hang out. We don't get to cheers the whiskey. We get to do this virtually. And dude, what's the latest? What's the greatest, man? What have you been up to?
Dude, not much. It's just been, still on that grind. And then on top of that, everything just got closed down again. So now we're back in self-quarantine. So no more outdoor dining. Everything's all takeout again. And they're closing all these public spaces, which I understand. The numbers are going through the roof. People are not, doing their due diligence. But
that's what I was going to ask you, man. Like, is it getting closer? The first go around in like February, March, April of 2020, it was like, it was like a contact of a contact that had it. And it was kind of distant. And then all of a sudden it feels a lot closer this time around. Are you feeling the same thing or no?
Honestly, it was a lot closer in the very beginning compared to where it is now for me, because a couple of my neighbors got it, and our neighbor across the street, he was in the hospital for about a month on a ventilator. Like it was crazy when it first started. And now I hear more people getting it, but they're not people that are close to me. You know what I mean?
Wow. Opposite for me, and that's interesting. Opposite for me. We get a lot closer to contacts and family and people getting it and dealing with that. But nobody, there has been some passed away, unfortunately, on Jocelyn's side of the family. It's been South Texas is just it's been very interesting results down there, man, and pretty heavy for sure. But anyway, so we're dealing with it, man. We're shutting down. We seem like we're going to manage this situation. Grant Pierce, sir, welcome to the PBE Podcast. What's it like in Vietnam, man? How did that go? Well, you were gone for the whole time almost, but story
for the week and a half you've been back.
Not even for the few days.
For the week and a half that I've actually been back. Yeah, inside Vietnam is basically wide open. I mean, other than the rules and regulations on coming into the country, being quarantined for 2 weeks, wearing a mask on a plane, in a taxi, or in a crowded market. Those are basically the rules that are in force. Kids are going to school.
Wow.
People are working. Of course, a lot of people in the travel industry are out of work now due to planes, international traffic being shut down. But like my flight from Hanoi to Ho Chi Minh City the other day was completely full. So people are moving around. It's interesting to see going from like Turkey to Cambodia to here, the different levels of countries.
Man.
Inside here, wide open.
Wow, very interesting. Very interesting. Isn't that interesting how it's all kind of different for each of us in this global pandemic? And it just kind of speaks to the complexity of it all, maybe, and like this mysterious kind of situation that some people have, and the perspectives from different folks on what this is and what's going on. It's so different, man. We're not all experiencing the same thing. So that's interesting, and it goes to this show. It really does. So, Grant, give me a second to read your bio. I hope I don't botch this completely like I classically do. Here we go. So, Grant is an American from Louisiana who has lived in Vietnam for the last 15 years. Married with Vietnamese wife and 2 daughters, 8 and 11. He's been in the oil and gas business, completions, and well intervention segment for the last 28 years. He's worked in the most prolific plays in the world, from ultra deep water, Gulf of Mexico, to Alaska in the U.S., West Africa, Angola, Equatorial, Guyana, Nigeria, Russia, India. What the Norway, Denmark, and all the Asia Pacific, Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia. Wow. I mean, you say, how's that for a bio? Man, your experience is incredible. Your story on this show is one that obviously you will never forget in your life, but it represents a lot of 2020. It really does, man. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. And we've talked about before the show, the intention is, so many people are dealing with things in 2020 or from blowback from 2020. So it's not one person dealing with all these problems. It's everybody. Yeah. So it's just to bring awareness up. That was the point of the whole point of doing the show, is to bring awareness up, around the world. But we're by my colleague and I are by no means the only people that
right.
This is affecting, right?
Yeah, exactly, man. For me, what you're talking about is what I believe 2020 is at the end of the day, and we're almost at the end of this thing, but you said it perfectly. 2020 has raised the awareness, man. It has raised the awareness for every individual person. And whatever your experiences was of 2020, you're learning from it. If you can reflect, recycle it into motivation for 2021, there is an incredible amount of growth. There's an incredible amount of opportunity. It's exciting. We should be enthusiastic about the future. It's not doom and gloom, man. That's bullshit. It's not doom and gloom. We raised awareness. We're fucking unplugging from the matrix. We're ready to go.
Absolutely. Mindset is absolutely what controls each and everything you do. Mm-hmm. So it is very important to down days are normal. Everybody fucking has them, but it's very important to keep a positive mindset. Because if you don't, then nothing happens except for, like you said, doom and gloom and bad feelings.
Yeah, but, and I think that just goes to show, and my takeaway from the show is you're seeing your 25 plus years of experience, and like you said, you have those good days and you have those bad days, and I think that experience is, for someone like me who younger, if I were to step into a situation like you were in Nigeria, I probably would have responded totally different. But you're 26 years of experience, you're able to say, hey, let's take a step back. Like, I've been in crappy situations before. Let's just see how we can get through this. Let's take it one step at a time. And I think that needs to be the way you approach 2021. Hey, sure. we just need to take this one step at a time. Let's not drag our feet. Let's not blame anyone, because we're all coming out of this. And, there are greener pastures on the other side. But, I think for you, especially having all that experience, got you through this situation.
Oh, for sure. It definitely attributed to it. Myself and Stan, I'm 46. Today actually is my birthday.
What?
Happy birthday!
Oh, what?
Thanks, guys. So podcast on my birthday as well.
That's the first. That's the first 66 episodes, man.
So Stan is 53. I'm 46. So we're pretty close to the same age. And we've been discussing, the same thing. It is. Of course, there are difficult things that happened that shouldn't have happened, but just take a step back and who knows how you would react until you're stuck in those situations.
That's
exactly.
Right.
It's but like you said, awareness, that is key for sure, and it's everybody's. I think most everybody's awareness is up around the world. Or a high percentage anyway.
Oh God.
Yep.
Dog, love it.
We got a dog in the picture. Look at him.
We got a dog. I don't know how he got in.
Hey, what you said was absolutely right. It's raised awareness, and what just happened is absolute truth. A dog in your life bringing happiness. There's happiness. There's good things in this world. The simple things, man. Let's be happy with what we got. Put your shit together, and let's go forward.
That's correct. Yep. Never stop moving forward. That
Exactly.
is absolutely key. You can always reflect and look back and take your lessons. Of course, learn lessons from things that happen. Reflect back on them, but don't spend any time there, dwelling there.
Yeah.
Keep going forward. That is I don't know. That is the way that I've been living my life for at least the last 2 years. There's no reason, or there's no room for dwelling on things, because hey, that's in the past. We can't change that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you said that very well, man. You can't forget the past. You can't. You fucking can't. Like, it's always there, and you either think about it and you recycle it from the good. You've recycled the good back into things that you're doing today, or you think about it and it's all negative and it fucks up what you're doing today. You can control that. You have control of that, and don't forget the past. Be brave. Be courageous. Go back into the past and recycle that thing into something that makes sense for today. Why did I go through that experience? Because of this today, or whatever the enlightenment is, man. I thanks so much to spend this time with you, man. I've really enjoyed it.
Hey, I've enjoyed it thoroughly. Both of you guys. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome time indeed.
It's been a true pleasure, Grant. This has been probably the most fun I've had in a while. So this was a good
Hey,
time.
likewise, man. I've been in. I can't count the amount of hotel rooms that I've stayed in right now, but it's a lot. But yeah, and thoroughly enjoyed speaking to both you, Matt, and you, Troy. And yeah, I look forward to. I'm hoping that I can do more podcasts in the future. So this has been my virgin run at it, I guess.
Nice. All right, we are officially starting the conception part of the show with Mr. Grant Pierce. Sir, welcome to the PBE Podcast, and we just really want to get to know you, man. How did it all begin for you? How did your experiences with oil and gas, young man, growing up in this thing?
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. First podcast I've ever done, so I will be a newbie on this. I've talked to the camera, of course, talking to myself many times, but talking and video chat. So, but a podcast specific, this is the first one I've done. So
Here we
thanks.
go.
Thanks for that. Yeah, I am a 46-year-old guy that grew up in Louisiana, in Shreveport, actually. Up there, and during those times, like once you graduated high school and went to college or didn't go to college, you were either worked as a farmer or you worked in oil and gas, and oil and gas was where some of my friends went, and that's also where I ended up right after my senior year in high school.
Wow.
So it was just one of those things,
I went
like
to
within.
university, I also worked for that same electric wireline company, during summers and after class and in between breaks and all that. So I started basically quite early working in oil and gas, and rather than finish university, I actually just continued working in oil and gas, and that's what I've done for my last 28 years this
What was
year.
the first gig, man? What was the first job out in oil and gas?
Electric wireline job as a rigger, just getting all the equipment set up for like a perforating job, pipe recovery. I was looking at those things pretty early in life, building setting tools and things like that.
Yep.
And this was all onshore Louisiana when you first started?
Yeah, this is all where the company that I worked for, they covered North Louisiana, East Texas, Southern Arkansas. So in those three states, basically.
Damn, you're 18, 19 years old, just running around, getting paid, making a living. And you were trying at first you were doing college and work, and then you were like, all right, I'm done with college. I'm just gonna climb this ladder.
Yeah, pretty much, and I don't have any regrets behind that because I've learned so much, and this business has taken me so far and taught me so much. So the experience certainly outweighs that degree that would have taken me 2 more years.
Right.
To
exactly.
pay
That first hand. I mean, you could talk about it all you want in a classroom, but until you're on the site and actually handling those tools and, you're seeing those problems firsthand, that's where you learn.
Absolutely agree. I stayed up in North Louisiana for a couple of more years. I actually moved into frac and stimulation because that was a big thing. There were, Halliburton, BJ Services, Schlumberger had 3 major yards in Shreveport, Bossier City. So that was also a time when fracturing was starting. The shale revolution hadn't started yet, but it was in its infancy, you could say.
Yeah.
Early
there was a lot of
2000s.
frac work going on.
Early
So I
2000s.
joined BJ, and for a year I learned frac. And after a year there, a friend of mine and myself were speaking, guy that also worked there together, and he said, "Hey, what do you think about going to work offshore in the Gulf of Mexico? We can go get on with Halliburton, and we can sort of help with their frac stuff." And I said, "Yeah, let's go."
What was the
So,
difference in pay? What was the difference in
Sorry?
pay on that? What was the scale difference in pay on that?
Well, I can remember at BJ in 95, 96 making $7.75 an hour. That was the pay scale then. Because back then, and like there is now, there was a minimum wage set. And we weren't, because we worked so many hours a week. I mean, we would do like 80 hours in 1 week on the clock.
Shit.
It was a ridiculous amount of hours. So it was a very low hourly pay, but you got so many hours that it was like time and a half or something,
Yeah.
that you made a living, but it wasn't a living that you would want to do continuously, waking up at 2 o'clock every morning, working until 6 in the evening, like that. Pretty long days.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, man. Okay, so now you're gonna go offshore. You're like, I'm into this.
Yeah. So I did. Me and one of my friends that I was telling you about this, that I discussed that with, moved down to Lafayette. Well, we went and spoke to the operations manager that ran production enhancement pumping in New Iberia, and he basically hired us on the spot. And we found a place in Lafayette, and we moved our stuff down there, and went to work for Halliburton. And that was in 95. So soon there was like another downturn, a mini downturn in there. And we got to a point where Halliburton were basically cutting back hours, to a minimum. And they didn't want to transfer anybody out. They wanted to hold on to the experience that they had. So I had an opportunity to go to work for Core Lab,
Cool.
Protechnics, which was one of their divisions, meter and radioactive tracer, and also running their logging tools during stimulation jobs, cement jobs. Basically, it's an evaluation technique. You pump radioactive sand with their sand or with the cement, and then you can see after where that material goes, right? Mm-hmm. So you can evaluate whether your completions or cement jobs, et cetera, are doing what they're supposed to. So I spent 7 more years with those guys in the Gulf of Mexico. And that's the company that I actually started working deep water and and ultra deep water with, and spending much time offshore. Halliburton was my first year and a few months in the Gulf of Mexico.
Walk me through a hitch. Is it a hitch 14 days or something out on an offshore rig? How does that, you're getting helicoptered out to this thing, dropped on the platform. How does that, can you let us all know kind of how that actually kind of goes?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. It depends on the country you're in these days. But I mean, I can remember days in the Gulf of Mexico where it was either a helicopter out, which is showing up to an airport. That's in layman's terms, a small airport, and watching half an hour of safety videos on that specific aircraft. And what happens if you need to ditch the aircraft, emergency situations. What if those come up? You go through a safety briefing, just like any safety briefing before a job.
Yeah.
Then you're given either a life vest, or you're made to put on a full survival suit. Like I said, it just depends on, whether you're in a cold area of the world or a tropical area. You're not going to put in a tropical area. You're not going to put a full survival suit on because, well, you'll probably die of heat exhaustion when you go in the water. But you'll definitely have some type of life vest and maybe a rebreather or something attached to you that you can use in the event of an emergency.
Maybe you can change the way I feel about helicopters, but I've been in helicopters a few times in my life, and I always think it doesn't feel like we're supposed to be doing this. It feels like the guy's just constantly like trying to fucking not crash the thing.
Well,
Where were you in this helicopter? Is this like an old Vietnam Huey pilot or something? Like
actually, I am to the point where I can go into a helicopter and go to sleep now. I mean, I won't be sleeping totally. I will be that much. I'll be aware of what's happening just by the feel in the helicopter. But I literally can rest. Most of the pilots that were in the Gulf of Mexico early days, and I know a lot of them still are ex-Vietnam vet pilots. They're guys who are flown through some shit. So taking a simple flight out to a rig, in some just dealing with weather, that is like a cakewalk for these guys.
That's a walk in the park.
Yeah, you just have to trust that of the company and the people that are doing the maintenance, basically. And most of these guys that are flying are ex-vets from whatever country they're from. So they're staying on top of the maintenance people too.
How long is the chopper flight to the platform?
It depends. I've gone, anywhere from 20 minutes to 2 hours.
Wow.
Those 2 hour ones, those are like from Venice, maybe what would it be, like 200 nautical miles out, very far out deep water stuff that's that ultra deep stuff around. Yeah.
Wow. All right, so now you got is it 14-day hitch, or how did you guys do it, or what was
in those days we were working like 16 and 4, or sometimes I think we got to a point where we were working 21 and 7.
Wow.
We worked with ProTechnics. We just took a weekend off or whatever when we could. We didn't have a set schedule. We had like 3 guys in each department doing similar jobs, so we basically helped each other out and rotated around. So one guy or 2 guys could have off, and while the other guys were working, etc.
Yeah.
So
as long as the job was getting done, that was what was important.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What's the size of these things? I've never really thought about how big. It seems like about a half a football field by a half a football field in size, or bigger than that.
Like a semi sub would be like that, but like the Discover Enterprise, which I was on for a couple of years when BP was drilling Atlantis and Thunder Horse. It was 4 football fields long, and what was it wide? I want to say it was half a football field wide.
What?
So, and this is a ship, right? This is a drill ship.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, massive. I can remember the first time stepping onto that off the helicopter. Like, when you don't see the other end of the ship from the heliport
You
on the
landed up
bridge, it's
car.
like, wow, that's a big place.
Yeah.
Wow. Is that the same deal that got all fucked up in the Gulf of Mexico in 2007? Or is that not the same?
That was a semi sub. Yeah, that was a semi sub. I'm talking about a drill, like an actual ship.
Okay.
A drill ship, which is drilling in the deepest waters, but they're just similar setups. Like the one that went down in the Gulf of Mexico, easily close to a football field square all the way around. Yeah, they're big. They are big units.
Wow.
Nothing small about them.
Wow. How does the shifts actually work? Is it 24/7 on call or is it 12 on, 12 off with the partners?
Yeah, it depends. Like the core crews, like the rig crews and the operator, usually have people on. It's 24-hour operations, and they usually will have 12-hour shift of crew, another 12-hour shift, a night and a day shift, and then your service companies will come in, and depending on what services they need to provide, they might provide also 2 shifts, or they just might provide 1. It just depends on the length of operation, how long they're actually going to be working.
Yeah. And so when you're on this hitch, you got someone cooking you food the whole time, or is it all like microwave food? How does like the logistics of, living quarters, and how does that look?
It is it's like a fully sustained it's basically a fully sustained small city on the water. Some of these this is not all places, from the smallest jack up on up to the ship, but some of these places have stores where you can buy, maybe something that you couldn't normally take from the galley. It's like a hotel. You have 3 meals a day that are served, salad bar normally, different foods for each meal. Then in between, there's always food provided. There's a crew there that washes clothes.
Wow.
Catering crew that actually keeps the inside of the quarters clean.
Wow.
Changes your bed sheets, cleans the bathroom and all this stuff. So there's a whole crew of people just taking care of everything, basically.
Yeah.
Incredible. How about the movement? Is the thing kind of like rocking and moving?
They are these days. It depends, obviously. If you're working in the west of Shetlands in the North Sea, then during stormy season, it can get a little bit rocky. But they're actually pretty stable. I can remember early Gulf of Mexico days. Some of the drill ships that were then maybe built in the 70s, they would rock from side to side. It felt like you were just going port starboard, almost listing all the way over without just going under. So, but these ships these days, they don't beat you like that. I mean, they are very stable. So much weight, involved in one of these things, and so much also water ballasted inside the either the pontoons or in the hull to be able to keep things stable.
So how much longer do you do this until you become kind of the consultant and kind of your career really sets up?
I went to work for a company called Welltech, a Danish-based company, in 2005. And that job took me internationally pretty quickly. first to Angola, then to India. Well, in between, first to Vietnam, where I still am, into India, Malaysia, Equatorial Guinea, Sakhalin. That's when I really started moving around. I wasn't even consultant at that time. I worked for those guys for almost a decade, for
Still
9 years and something.
Focused on fracking still? Still was a
No, actually, horizontal well intervention. Basically doing what a coil tubing can do with electric hydraulic tools. Some advanced technology at the time, and I've sort of always worked for companies that were in, except for frac, which is a pretty general these days. I've generally always worked for niche companies that sort of are leading edge technology.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I went to work for Welltech, and I stayed with those guys for, like I said, 9 years and something. And they sent me around the world, 2-year contracts. 2 year
So I
contracts.
gotta ask that, from going from Louisiana to the Gulf to all of a sudden now you've basically checked every country off of your passport. Well, not every country, but you put a ton of countries on your passport. What was that like? I mean, experiencing those different cultures. I mean, the way these countries run their businesses. I mean, that in itself.
Completely eye-opening. My colleagues in Angola, which was Luanda, was my first international country to go to, West Africa. And my colleagues were all Danish, and they said after a month of us being together, because we worked 4 weeks there, 4 weeks home, and we always had sort of some overlap with all the same guys, maybe 2 weeks with one guy, 1 week with another guy, 5 days with another guy. And they'd said to me, "Man, you're not like a normal American guy. Have you been traveling before?" And I said, "Oh, what do you mean?" And they said, "Because you listen to what we're saying, and you're not just trying to put your ideas on us. You have an open mind." And I said, "No, man, this is my first country, but I needed to come here with an open mind to try to understand all this."
Yeah. I mean, you need to understand those different perspectives.
I've
right?
Working, I tell you, going to all those countries has really opened my mind on how business is done, in so many places. Mm-hmm. It's given me, it's built me, basically. I wouldn't have, I think if I wouldn't have taken that job and gone to work for those guys, I wouldn't have had the opportunities that I've had to live in all these multiple countries, and experience all these cultures, and see how different people do things. It's given me, I think I would say, a unique perspective compared to people even that just travel out for vacation, and they may go to multiple countries, but not to live there and work and see how everything is.
There's a difference between traveling somewhere for pleasure or for business, right? You don't really understand the nitty gritty of a place until you live there and you understand, okay, this is how things are done. Not, I stayed in this resort or this hotel, I ate at these nice restaurants, and then we went and saw this, band or musician, blah, blah, blah. It's like, that's not the culture. That's you could do that anywhere.
That's the tourist trail. Correct.
Oh yeah.
How do you land in Vietnam?
My contract was ending in, like, what was it? 2 days before Christmas in 2007. And I was heading home. My contract in India was beginning in like March of 2008. So I had a few months. And they asked me, would I come stop in Vietnam to do a job on my way home? And I thought, yeah, sure. I'll probably never go to Vietnam in my life, so why not? So I stopped here, arrived here, what was it, the 23rd, actually, And then, yeah, we of course, the Vietnamese, and there is a Catholic community here, so they do celebrate Christmas a little bit. I mean, they don't make a huge production of it. It's more for the tourist type of thing. But we had like a Christmas dinner at a local hotel with my colleagues, and the job that was supposed to last like 2 weeks lasted 3 months. So I got a longer immersion than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically, I never left after that. I mean, I lived in Malaysia only because that while I was here that 3 months, I'd already decided to base myself in Malaysia while I worked in India. So I'd already taken an apartment there, already paid for it, already paid the deposit and all that. So after the job finished here, I went to Malaysia for about a year. But my girlfriend then, who is now my wife of 11 years, she went to Malaysia with me as well while I worked in India. So after that, we came back here because it really made no sense for us to be in Malaysia when we were building a Vietnamese family. So. So yeah, it's been an interesting trip to get here for sure.
And so what do you do? What have you been doing for the last 11 years, or how did that go? 2007, then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, this is where I'm at. That's what I'm doing. This is years down the line. What did you ultimately develop into specializing in?
Sure. So I actually continued for another 7 years, working with Welltech and traveling around the world. Moved into management. Built lots of leadership skills. I was region technical manager for Asia Pacific, so I covered all the countries in Asia Pacific and India, Australia, Bangladesh, China. So I did an awful lot of traveling in those last years with Welltech. And then 2014, I decided, I've done this for a little more than 20 years already, since the early 90s. And I thought, it's time to consult. It's time to do something on my own. Mm-hmm. So I turned in my resignation, and, I had some months to relax, but I knew my next move was to start my own consulting firm and work on my own. So the end of 2015, I started working together with a friend of mine who were building a subsea light well intervention vessel, and they needed to bring some well site supervisors on and some superintendents for some subsea work. And yeah, I quickly jumped onto that opportunity and learned that part of the business, though I had been working subsea type of work many years already. This was sort of a specialization, with a specific vessel or ship made specifically for subsea well intervention. Mm-hmm. And so I helped build that vessel and got that vessel ready for operations. And then 2015 hit everybody like it did. Well, it hit everybody around the world. Mm-hmm. And the company I was working for did some layoffs. And of course, being a contractor, we were the first to be let go. And that was actually my first time in a downturn to be let go. And that was also the time that I realized that job security is just is not a real thing. It's a thing, a thought we got in our minds that something is secure, but it's not a true thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, learned a lot of lessons there about, I made a decision to become a contractor at the wrong time. Hey, that is all hindsight, right?
Yeah.
You can't do anything about hindsight. So
No.
you just have to keep going forward and figuring things out. And so I had when those guys laid off after about a year that I was there with them, or released us, I had a contract with Oxy in Oman that I had signed, and they needed to sign for 2 years. And the oil prices, they just kept dragging, and they canceled after 3 months. They said, we can't hire right now. So it's been an interesting path, oil and gas wise. But yeah, after say 2016, there were probably about 10 months in there where I was hunting and looking at different angles pretty hard. Then I could pick some work up and went back to work in Qatar. First time in the Middle East, though I'd been in India. I spent almost 2 years working offshore and desert locations there. So some very extreme temperatures. Like when I experienced 54, I didn't actually think that was 54 Celsius. I didn't actually think that was a temperature that was possible, like at all. But when I walked out in it, I was like, fuck, this is a real thing. People do work.
Yeah, for the people that don't, this is just for listeners that don't realize, that is like 130 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
That is
like
it's insane temperatures.
That was for me. I was calculating. I'm like, that's fucking hot. Yeah. I didn't know it was that hot.
Yeah.
That's hot.
Yeah, it is.
Man.
It is insane.
It is. I agree 100%.
I've never experienced that, thankfully. I was gonna say, I think the most that got to in Midland was what, like 120, 115, which it's still hot, but I mean, once you get over that 110 threshold, every degree is just like you're just like melting a little bit more. Yeah.
Wow. Gosh, dude.
That's insane. So I mean, when you're out there in those conditions, is this like on the site, or is this just, I mean, I'm assuming there's some kind of air conditioning, because there's no possible way to be an effective employee.
Like you are limited to how long you can be outside, or how long you need to at least go in the shade with a porta-cool fan and drink water for 10 minutes. You can, like when the levels get that high, they have like a red flag, yellow flag, red flag, black flag system on the site. And they go, okay, you can work for 10 minutes. You come inside for 20 minutes and drink water. Like it was, Qatar, is the only place that I've worked in so far in the Middle East that does that. But I understand that most countries there, they have a system like that. The oil companies have a system like that in place.
Yeah.
Or the drilling contractor have a system built into their safety regs that say you're only allowed X amount of time, because it's pretty. I mean, I just loaded a basket one day in 54, and it was like 5 minutes of just moving a couple of pallets. I could have easily done that in a normal temperature range, and just doing that and going back inside just completely soaked, and just it trains you quick,
man. All right, so let's we could transition. I want to ask this. You mentioned job security and there's no such thing, or it's like it's not a real thing. I want to end the conception part of kind of going that a little bit deeper from your perspective and putting that in some other terms, because I think there's a lot of people right now that are going, whoa, I thought I had job security. I was just with this company for 11 years and I just got the note, you know what I mean? And now it's, where am I going from here? So let's do that, and then we'll transition into the drill down.
Okay. Yeah, no, here's what I think about work and job security. you need to do the best job that you can and strive to do the best job that you can all the time, every time, no matter what.
Yeah.
Because your reputation is everything. I mean, it's everything that you got. And yeah, and your mindset is obviously a very important part of that. But, I've experienced working I did experience working full-time contracts, full-time employee for lots of large companies and small companies, and also as an independent consultant, and made it through some very rough downturns where people next to me were losing their jobs. So I always, as a younger guy, always had this notion that my job was secure because I was busting my ass. My reputation was good. I was being requested by clients, etc. But I think that's simply a perception that we have that yeah, it's not a negative perception per se, but I think we have all seen, over the last year time, or I've seen it from 2015 to now, the amount of people in the oil and gas business that have been cut, experience lost, and a lot of experience lost that won't come back simply because they now have found something where they're home every night that's not the ups and downs, that's enough for them to get by on. So it's actually unfortunate what's transpired, but I guess it's also the what would you call it, like the circle of life of the way these
it's the nature of the beast.
It is the nature of the beast, correct.
Yeah.
Grant, man, really enjoyed the conception part of that show. I really did, and just like Skip said, learned a ton and got to know you, and then knowing a little bit more since we've reached out and kind of crossed paths through LinkedIn, and watching these videos, watching your posts. I'm going, oh my gosh, man! I mean, this is the wildest story of 2020 that I heard. It really is. So please, do you have the document in front of you? You want to go through the timeline, or how do you want to do that? I can share my screen and you can see.
Yeah, I've got it. No, I've got it. I've got it here in front of me. So I'll just walk through it as well. So early 2020, started looking at a light well intervention campaign for Shell Nigeria. And made contact with the well operations managers in Shell, and got my name and my colleague and friend's name, who I've worked with in the past, who also lives here in the same city in Vietnam. Got our CVs in front of the guy, and well, got hired on by a subcontract agent, or by a contract agency for Shell Nigeria. That would have been mid-February.
Sorry to interrupt already, but what's the role of a contract? Manage
this specific role were well site supervisors for a well intervention campaign, where Helix Energy Solutions is going to bring their new rig, semi-submersible Q7000 over, and they're going to intervene in a well, multiple subsea wells, and we are going to be the guys who represent Shell to oversee the work, to make sure the work is done correctly, etc.
Got it.
So we get our contracts and we get signed. And at that point, we start our visa acquisition, which means we need to go to Hanoi. We live in the South. So we get those visas done, a bit hard due to COVID already sort of rearing its head.
Right, because Yeah, you're
this
near
is
the
this is
heart of
early
it.
this is early March, right? So
Yeah.
there's
Okay.
already wind of you're hearing things in the news, and the embassies here, they started shutting down. The foreign embassies, they started shutting down because they didn't want, to take the chance of passing COVID around to their embassy people.
Hmm.
So we had a little bit of a tough time getting a visa, but we were very persistent. We showed up at their embassy when they told us not to and banged on the door because we had already paid the visa fees for one, and for two, basically it would have been a missed opportunity to go to work, for Shell
Yeah.
altogether if we didn't have those visas. So we persisted, and we actually got the visas last minute. Flew off to Nigeria on March 12th. Arrived in Lagos the 13th, which was a Friday morning. And very uneventful. West Africa in general can be a chaotic place. And Nigeria is no different. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of open markets, a lot of people in the street. You see a wide variety of people in different states. Very busy place. Our agent picked us up from the airport, so there was no hiccups. They had already started temperature checking people as they came into the country, so there was some COVID-esque protocols in place.
Right.
They wouldn't let anybody in any building without checking temperature, so they were aware of things happening around the world. The first day that we got into Lagos, we rode around in our SUV, or in our agent's SUV, while he tried to acquire us a hotel because he didn't have the place to stay booked yet, which was that was the first sort of hiccup.
Yeah.
But first day in, and both of us, myself and Stan, we're close to 30-year experienced guys, so we've been into a lot of shitty situations and also good situations. So we didn't think, okay, there was no negative thoughts going at that time. Just
It's
all
like
right,
we're gonna find a hotel room. Who knows when?
We're
But
gonna
we're
find
gonna
a
find
hotel
something.
room eventually. So, he basically told us, hey, look, it's the weekend. You guys have been flying. Take a rest. Finally got us a room through Shell Nigeria. They booked us a room in there where they put their contractors, and just took a rest for the weekend. And I have contacts with Helix, and I knew the guys that were there, the project managers, etc. The guys that we were actually going to be working hand in hand with. So I made contact with them and met their project manager over the weekend in the hotel, and started getting ready for what we thought was going to be like a normal rotation of 4 weeks. Do some front end planning in town, and the next hitch, come back and go offshore and actually perform the well operation work. But things started coming down, with COVID pretty heavy. I think it was on like Monday even when we went to meet Shell. They had already started their work from home routines. So they were already putting in place protocols which were going to stall the work. Even when we flew in, Shell already had international travel bans in place. So the well ops managers weren't in country, they were at home. They had to give permission for us to actually fly in, to be brought in due to those travel bans in place due to COVID. So it was already even when, the day that we flew in, things were already in place to protect people which were going to work in these places. So yeah, interesting time to fly into a country, but and certainly not expected that things would go in this long. But so we spend I guess we went to meet Shell, and we met our subsea team lead on Monday, and he told us, we're going to move ahead with planning for this project. You guys just stay in the hotel for now, because we are doing work from home routines. There's no reason to expose people if we don't have to.
Yeah.
We'll just email you all the details on our planning. When we do have meetings, we'll get you in. So yeah, no problem. So we stayed working from the hotel for that first week, with just very little talk at all from our contract agent, which was, by that point, it wasn't really surprising. He's the type of guy that doesn't answer the phone, doesn't answer emails, except for maybe after badgering him 100 times.
God.
Just not really on top of his business.
Yeah.
So we didn't hear much from him during that whole week, except that he had taken our passports and sent our passports to Abuja, which is another major city in Nigeria, where their embassy, consulate department lies, that actually issues green cards and work visas and this sort of thing, right?
And that's pretty common. Yeah. That's pretty common.
Yeah, it is. A lot of countries, at least with my experience in West Africa, you come in on like a temporary visa, a short-term visa, and then you give your passport in, and they basically give you a work permit, a green card, sort of like resident status. It's, so you're a tax, basically, so you're a tax citizen. You're working there for 6 months, and whoever pays those taxes, whether it be you or the company, you're listed as a tax citizen. So yeah, that is normally how it goes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the only so basically we stayed in a hotel during that first week up until that Thursday anyway. And the next point was we were going to be moved into a apartment or Shell 2 estate. It's like a apartment community, which normally expatriates who are residents in the country live there. Families. It's not a place where the single guys would be put, or contractors would normally be put. Mm-hmm. It's like a family gated community. There's no stores. There's no shops. You can't just walk out and go to the 7-Eleven. You're in sort of the middle of at night with what looks like a very bad area of town in Lagos. So so being parked over there was a bit strange. Also, considering we didn't have our car and driver, which we were contracted to have for the entire length. So things were a little bit off, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
We moved into that apartment, and that was at that time, like it was towards the end of that first week. So COVID news was getting like pretty hot and heavy everywhere in the world at that point.
Yeah.
Vietnam were already talking about closing its doors, and no specifics yet, but things were happening at a very fast pace. So we were actually we brought it up to our agent a few times. Hey, look, man, what happens when this gets canceled? Because it's coming. Don't worry about that. That's not happening. Yeah, okay, but I am going to worry about that. Wow. We are worried about that because if things close and this cancels, what's going to happen? Proper prior planning, prevents piss poor performance. So I'm a diehard believer in that.
Yeah, you got it nailed.
Yeah.
So that weekend before Nigeria closed on the 20, let's see, I think we left the 23rd. Yeah, when Nigeria closed on the 23rd. So the 21st, 22nd, 20th, 21st, 22nd, we stayed in this apartment complex, blah, blah, blah. And, this estate gated community. On Saturday, we were actually out by the community pool and barbecuing, just the two of us, and the asset manager for the apartment that works for Shell Nigeria. He came to us and he said, basically, what the hell are you guys doing here? We're evacuating, mandatory evacuation on Monday. The buses are picking everybody up. Contact your agent. Give me your contract holder's name. I'll get a hold of him. And so we attempted to contact our agent. Couldn't get a hold of him. Sunday, same thing from the same guy. We did talk to our Shell subsea lead at that time, and he said, "Yeah, this is happening. We need to speak to your agent." Same sort of MO though. Can't get in touch. Well, Monday, 8:30, we got a phone call from our team lead, and he said, "We are evacuating today. Some way, somehow, that complex is shutting down. The buses are picking all the people up. You guys need to get out of there. So let's get a hold of your agent and figure out a way." So we finally got a hold of Henry, and he was still very nonchalant, saying the complex there is not closing. Leave your bags. And we went, "No, fuck off. We already had our bags.
You clearly are so disconnected from this situation that,
Correct.
Oh
so we got our car, which we had actually attained over that last weekend we were there, and we got to his office, and just chaos. No tickets booked. We were put on the phone with their travel agent to figure out routing, how we were going to get at least next door to Vietnam. Shell asked us if we could go to the U.S., and we said, no, absolutely not. We don't have any ties there. I mean, we've been in Vietnam both 12 to 15 years, bank accounts here, families here, house here. Mm-hmm. This is our point of origin, and that's where we're going to go back to, so we figured out the best routing was like from Nigeria to Turkey to Qatar through Thailand and finally into Cambodia. But unfortunately, and we got those tickets. But unfortunately, once we got to Turkey, we didn't have COVID tests, PCR tests. We didn't have insurance, health insurance, which our agent was supposed to take out for us the week before, that we filled out paperwork for already. So we were basically stuck. We got to Turkey, and the next morning we got to Turkey, and we had to take a visa actually to transit over to the other airport, because the travel agent didn't inform us that we needed to switch airports in Turkey. So that was like
this might be the worst agent of all time.
yeah, definitely not in the top percentile of quality. So we landed we finally got over to this other airport, and actually it was an 8-hour wait. So we waited our 8 hours, and on the check-in process, basically, of course they know who's coming through. The booking agent who's there checking people in, she knows what kind of issues that she's going to be facing. So as soon as she sees us in business class stepping up. She goes, "Oh, you're Grant Pierce, you're Stanley. Do you have PCR tests? Do you have 50,000 in health insurance? Because if not, you can't transit Bangkok, which means you're going to get stuck in the airport." And we're like, "Whoa, what can we do?" And she says, "Well, what you can do is remain here and wait, and your ticket's still open, or you can try to fly to maybe Hong Kong, where they're also turning away American passengers, American passports at this point."
What?
So we just made a quick decision and said, "Okay, we're going to stay in Turkey until this thing calms down." But 2 days later, then Turkey closed their airspace and all their borders in between all their regions in the country. So things came locked down, worldwide, at a very quick rate.
That's interesting. So they wouldn't let you fly because you didn't have $50,000 in health insurance. Was that the and then what was the other thing?
And no COVID tests, no COVID tests.
So
yes.
I was gonna say I mean, obviously I've done zero international travel since all this started happening, but is that from friends that you've talked to, or other people flying out? Is that something that was pretty standard, or is that something that was kind of a curveball?
No, that was something that was that Thai Airways, or that Thailand threw up at the last minute. Before anybody else did, they started requiring people who even transited their airport to have a COVID test and health insurance to cover, in case you came there and you were sick and you got infected other people, right? That is something that's at play now internationally in most countries.
Mm-hmm.
Then it wasn't, that was the very beginning. So
I was going to say, they hopped on that very, very quick.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of threw they did throw a curveball, because had we known that, we wouldn't have even booked that flight, right?
Yeah.
We wouldn't have taken the flight because we would have known then we can't go through there.
Yeah.
Wow. So what the heck? Okay, now I'm locked in. You're stuck.
So are you in the airport still, or are you perusing around?
We can go out. We can go outside. We can go outside the airport. We're in Turkey now.
I was gonna say, so you're in Istanbul, or?
Yeah, we're an hour and a half outside Istanbul.
Okay.
At a place called Sabiha. This is where the other airport is.
Gotcha.
But we landed in Istanbul, and then we rode on a bus to Sabiha, which is an hour and a half away.
Gotcha.
So I have some good friends, or a good friend from Azerbaijan, and he has a brother and they have contacts in Turkey. So I was actually talking to him when we were in the airport. He said, "Don't worry, I'm going to tell my friends to take care of you guys. They'll tell you what place is safe to go, what area is okay, not okay. So, and if you need help speaking to people, I can help you." Yeah, no problem. So we just got a hotel that night right by the airport, and started watching the news, which was all oh shit everywhere in the world. And we saw the cases coming up in Istanbul and what they were talking about on the news, and they were talking about shutting the city down, lockdown type of thing. So we thought the best thing for us to do is find a city on the coast where there's not a lot of people right now, and just go there, fly there before airspace in Turkey completely closes.
Yeah.
So that next morning we went back. We got our Turkish friend who we just met to pick us up and take us back to the airport in Istanbul. And we flew to this place called Bodrum. It's on the Aegean coast. It's like Greek, just right across from Greece. Nice. Yeah, it would be, or it is a beautiful place. especially when it's open. When things are fully shut down, it's a bit strange to be the people there. But it was yeah. So we flew ourselves, or we arranged our own way there. Because when I called the agent, when we had this hiccup the night before, saying we can't proceed, we're stuck in Turkey, he just kind of went, I don't know what to do. So it's either do it yourself or you're sort of mind fucked, I guess.
Yeah. Oh my God. That.
So we went out to we got actually out to Bodrum, or down to Bodrum from where we were, and that following day, with the help of our Turkish friend, arranging a hotel for us and making sure things were still open, because there were a lot of places that were already shut down, especially hotels. And we flew to Bodrum, and the next morning, airspace closed, and over all of Turkey, and all the borders between the cities and the regions, they all closed. So we were stuck there, but we didn't think that things would extend out so drastically like they did. It was a nice place, nice temperature. Some things to walk around and see, etc. So things were quite different in the first month versus 9 months 9 months later. So I guess that would landing there would probably be about the point that we started getting concerned that we needed to speak to our agent about being paid for the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we had was basically our time in country, our travel, plus a 30-day cancellation fee, which was written into our contracts.
Mm-hmm.
So that was agreed. The day that we left Nigeria, basically what we were told from Shell: your contract the work is suspended. It's canceled. The contract's canceled for now. When the work comes back, you'll be the first call. We'll call you back. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, no problem. Look, force majeure, things happen. This is extenuating circumstances, so no issues.
Yeah.
And the process with approvals, with our time and what we were going to be paid for, started very quickly from the Shell side. From our agent side, not so quickly. Like, we were supposed to be paid in 5 days, and it ended up taking between 2 to 3 weeks for the both of us to be fully paid on that part.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, we also told him before we left, look, we have taken on ourselves a lot of expenses coming here, paying for the visas, getting ourselves here, being in the country. Now we're going to be spending, I don't know how much time in Turkey. We need some support here. So we need you to take care of the financial side as quickly as possible. And the feet were just really dragged on that.
Did we lose you?
Oh no.
Over.
Oh, you're there. You're back.
Okay, you're back.
There?
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay. So things seem to drag on. And to get paid, as we finally got Shell involved, though the agent told me, he said, this is not their problem. I said, well, look, it's somebody's problem. You are the contract agent. You've got documents which are called bridging documents, which say you have to act by their policies, Shell's policies, who are the contract owner. So if you're not doing the same thing that they're doing, well, somebody is off, and we need to make that match. So I basically went to them and said, can you please assist our agent in getting us paid? because this can't continue. Yes, I know it's not your problem directly because you've subcontracted us, but any help would be appreciated. So that part, yeah, taken care of, like I said, in 2 to 3 weeks time. But I want to point out that, it is strange that in a global pandemic, an emergency, that people aren't, in those 3 weeks time that we're in Turkey, nobody from the agency is sending us any messages saying, "Are you guys okay? Has anybody contracted COVID? What's going on there?" So there's sort of a lack of, just a total lack of disregard. Wow. is the feeling that we both had from the agent side at that point anyway. And I brought it up to Shell Nigeria. I said, this is constructive criticism. I hope people learn from this. This is not something I'm saying negative about this agency. This is something that needs to be addressed so it doesn't happen to other people. So hopefully people can learn from this.
Yeah. I was going to say, that's the big thing too, at the end of the day, where you're looking back at the situation and it's like, at least like we had, at least the frame of mind to get through this. But, imagine someone else in this situation where their agent is just more or less leaving them in the dust and giving them, I don't want to say misinformation, but I mean, when one person's telling you that there's a mandatory evacuation and then your agent's telling you, "Oh no, you're good. Keep barbecuing, keep grilling. It's going to be great. You're gonna, be out on well site, next week." That's something that can't happen. That's something.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
correct. Agree totally. This specific situation, I mean, there's obviously two organizations that are on different pages, right? Mm-hmm. They're looking at different things, and that's why, one of the reasons that operators around the world hire contract agents are because liability for one.
Yeah. And
that is something that they don't have to put on their books, Mm-hmm. But in saying that, there are also bridging documents. I know I've written the things for service companies and drilling contractors that actually match up to, the Shell, Exxon, BP, their policies that are written into the contract agent's policy. So this is a simple
negligence,
a personal negligence, and it's not I wouldn't say this is even a regional problem. This is a personal with that company problem thing,
Yeah.
Right. So you're managing your way out of, it could have been worse. It sounds like you ended up, in Greece and kind of managing this transition time.
Yeah. We ended up in Turkey, and I guess the bad thing or the worst thing were the uncertainties of when things were going to open up. When was airspace going to open up in Turkey for one? But when were foreigners going to be allowed, or residents in Vietnam was the second facet. So those goalposts, they just kept moving, every 2 weeks. Turkey would, maybe they were going to open May, say 15th at one time. Then May 14th would come and they would say, we just pushed it back to June 10th now. So we had this type of uncertainty and lockdowns, like 4-day lockdowns where you couldn't leave the hotel room. So those type of things were going on, during this time and while we were in Bodrum. So of course it wasn't just a sit tight and things are normal,
Right.
There were definitely some things going on which weren't allowing normal travels to take place.
Any chance you went to the big mud volcano in Azerbaijan?
No, we didn't make it to Azerbaijan because they were shut down already. That's one country I haven't made it to yet.
Oh man! All right, something to check out. Yeah. Something to definitely check out. Big ass mud volcano that operators are drilling into. Man. Okay, so let's do this. How did you get home?
Yep. So after 3.5 months in Turkey, we did well. After 2 months in Turkey, we did approach our agent and shell back and ask for a duty of care. Basically, we're still on contract until we're returned home. Even though contract was canceled, we're not back to our point of origin yet. So please give us some assistance. Pay our expenses at bare minimum.
I was going to say, because you guys have been
industry standard is like a day rate or a standby rate.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you guys are staying in a hotel room for how many days at this point?
For 9 months. That is costly. It's costly for 9 months.
Yeah.
9 months.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a while, man.
How many gyros? How many gyros did you eat? Are they called gyro? Gyro?
Yeah, gyros. Quite a few, actually.
Yeah. That's the most American thing you've said today. I'll take 10 gyros, please.
Extra sauce.
Right. So we approach our agent to give us some support.
Yeah.
We're told, of course, the contract is canceled, guys. There's no support. Well, we're not home yet, so we need to talk about something. So we went to Shell, the general managers there and the well ops managers there in Shell, Nigeria, and we said, hey, we expect to be treated like any other contractor, full-time employee. We're stranded in an emergency situation. We're not returned home yet. Can you help us? Plain and simple. And we were given what was equivalent of $125 a day through that point. And that was the help that we were going to get, basically. We were given a lump sum. It was deposited, and then we were basically just left on our own. Nobody checked up on us after May 11th. So when airspace opened in Turkey, we actually flew back to Istanbul, where we were going to depart from. We forced our agent to reinstate our tickets through Qatar Airways. The only thing we needed to do is get a PCR test, another COVID, up the nose swab.
Oh, fucking burns.
Throat.
Yeah.
And we had arranged our visa to Cambodia, since they had in the meantime they had opened doors to Americans.
Okay.
So basically, June, what would that be? June 11th, I think we flew back to Istanbul, and we stayed there for 10 days. Found our hospital to get the test done. Results back in 48 hours, and arranged our flights, and we flew to Cambodia from there, with the intention that we could probably get across the border, land border. We could make some arrangements some way, but 5 months later, we still weren't able to make those arrangements. We tried to cross the border once with some what we thought was legitimate help, but it turned out that we were just turned back away, and we went back to Phnom Penh. But yeah, lots of time and seeing every city in Cambodia, just on a bus going around, because what do you fill your time with when, I guess both of us were literally 200 kilometers, 100 miles, or not even, I guess 110 miles from our doorstep in Cambodia, but unable to cross the border. So that's what.
When did you get home?
I got home on this past Sunday night, on the 11th, was it? I flew into Vietnam on the 30th. Yeah, I landed in Vietnam on the 30th, and I had to do 2 weeks of hotel quarantine, which just meant me in a hotel room alone, like with no contact. And then I got a flight home Sunday night. That was my 15th day of quarantine.
Oh my God.
So just back actually. Yeah. Just back 3 days.
Pre-quarantine, how easy is it to cross the Vietnam-Cambodia border if you were just drive across? Is it pretty standard, or is it
before pre-COVID?
Yeah, pre-COVID.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
It's me like going to the border with my passport, getting a visa on arrival in 5 minutes, stamp, going through. I mean, It is just that simple. And I probably shouldn't say this, but locals, they cross the border illegally daily, because they don't have their ID or something of that nature. They just get on a motorbike and go around on the trail that goes around the border station. So it is quite easy legally and the other direction. But it used to be very simple.
Okay.
Now it's not so simple.
Man. I mean, incredible story. You persevered. You made it through. It could have been a lot worse, obviously, but it's something to think about. And certainly from your perspective, as you travel the world for work and experiencing these incredible opportunities that you would have no other chance of getting. You don't get that year back. You don't get your 2020 back. That could have been spent a lot differently in the situation you were in. So that can't
rather than staying in hotel rooms and then traveling to whatever weird spots you can that are still open wherever you are, whether you're in Turkey, Greece, or Cambodia. Just man.
It's that's I've always had a focus on time management. It's one of my pet peeves, and people will hear me say a lot about lost time on LinkedIn, because once a second goes by that you don't use, you lost it effing forever. You can't get that back. So absolutely, it's the most hilarious part, and it's more like a sick hilarious part of the whole thing, is I had both of us on a verbal agreement on a contract in Vietnam here, doing like a similar work program when we landed in Turkey. Mm-hmm. And the guy said, all you have to do is get home and both of you will have work for the next 6 months. So it was, okay, all we got to do is get home. This contract canceled, but another opportunity just opened up.
Right.
So that was sort of the most hilariously sick part about the whole thing, is there was work here. We just couldn't
get to it.
Wow.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. I didn't, it wasn't 9 months of just sitting in a room doing nothing. Like I built my own website for my consulting company, which I'm also going to use as a vehicle to bring some niche service companies into Vietnam. So that's been sort of something that I've had on the back burner for a long time now. So it gave me an opportunity to do that.
Sure.
there's been a lot of thinking, and I was just saying to a friend the other day, there's still a lot of lessons that I'm unpacking, in my own mind. But I'm trying to take it from the standpoint of what I learned versus being like bitter about the way shit went down.
Yeah.
Because that part doesn't get anybody anywhere.
No.
That's right.
I mean, like you self-loathing and then pointing the finger at, everything, right? That's not going to get you anywhere. That's just going to put you into a deeper and deeper hole.
Man,
exactly.
And guess what? Everybody's fucking, I can't blame that. It was this, it was that.
Everybody.
No, this is self-reflection time. This is, I think this is the moral of 2020.
Absolutely.
2020, the year of self-reflection.
I was saying to a friend of mine in Canada, I was talking to a guy 2 weeks ago who's been living in his car in the UAE. He's from Portugal. His family's in Portugal. He's like not had a job in 16 months. He doesn't eat for like 3-4 days at a time because he can't afford to buy food. And he can't sell the car because he's got fines from the government there that don't allow him to sell the car. And I'm like, man, I'm home. Yeah. You're in a much worse situation than I could even imagine that I've been in for the last 9 months. So yeah, it's everywhere. People are definitely affected globally.
Yeah. Well, man, that's a hell of a drill down. We haven't had anything like that since we started this show, man. And it's just incredible. It's incredible that you just got home. I should have realized that maybe through our text and made that correlation, but I was thinking, you said you were in Vietnam and you were just going more south, and I'm like, oh, maybe he's there for a while, traveling, whatever it was. I didn't put it together that this was home.
Right.
So let's go into you're home now. We are we are technically in the completion part of the PBE podcast now with Grant Pierce. And sir, we just went through that incredible journey of 2020 with you. We got to reflect with you. We got to see the kind of person you are, your attitude, which I believe is the best thing about this show. You have a great attitude for what happened, and I think it's inspirational what you're doing now. With all that behind you, how are you recycling all that into motivation for the moment right now and moving forward? What are you up to?
I am picking up where I left off when I went to work for Shell back in March. Just making myself available for anything and everything. I've been asked to move ahead with getting some new businesses started here in Vietnam. I'm looking at projects coming forward. Starting to see a lot more tenders, actually, even in the last week, like daily. Globally, tenders are coming forward. So I think we're seeing some positive signs.
Nice. Not talking about swiping right. You're talking about jobs.
Yeah, exactly. And the oil and gas business in general, tenders are starting to come forward. So I think that's very positive for all of us still involved in oil and gas business, for sure.
So not to cut you off.
Focusing on the lessons that I learned, and like I said, still unpacking all those lessons. But yeah, persistence is definitely something that people need to key on. You need to be persistent to do things in this day and age. I think really in any day and age, if you're not persistent with something, then you don't get things done. I mean, put pretty simply.
So just not to cut you off again, but just to understand how oil and gas works in Vietnam, is it similar to kind of the U.S. where you have the government leasing it to these public companies, or is there kind of a national oil company and then they hire these contractors, or?
It is a national oil company, and then they go in with like as a partner, as a joint venture,
Okay.
as a similar to a joint venture. There's a few different modes where they will like partner with Chevron or Talisman or Hess or ExxonMobil, the majors.
Gotcha.
And the majors do exist here. There's a lot of partnerships in Vietnam. It's a small percentage, compared to say Malaysia, where there's I would say a considerable amount more of work, but it is a large portion of the economy here, so it's
Gotcha.
important. I guess one more thing that I've definitely learned specifically for contract people: make sure you read your contracts and your contracts and what documents exist.
Yeah.
Make sure that your agent has those bridging documents to the owner, which is the operator, and everybody is on the same page and clear with what happens if some emergency situation like COVID-19 pops up and everybody has to be evacuated last minute. Because if those things aren't, if your contract details aren't clear, then that muddies the water later on, like us, 9 months later, still with no closure on this whole affair. So that is definitely a major lesson that I have to mention. And I wrote an article on LinkedIn about it as well. These details, they might be small during normal oil and gas cycles when the business is up. But when
small
the business
or
is
like
down,
not even non-applicable, like in
correct.
yeah.
Correct.
Man. I'm going to throw up a map. It's the one on my back. I'm going to ask you where the coolest place that you've drilled was. I want to know what part of the world was the coolest place to be out on offshore. Where are we going?
Probably my favorite place to work is still West Africa. I worked in Angola, then this trip to Nigeria, Luanda, Mauritania, and Congo. I still, for some reason, chaotic places play well with me. I'm somebody who, the more challenging the place, I guess, the better it is for my personality. So, I would still say there. I mean, obviously, the place that I settled is the most important to me now. It's Vietnam, but Asia Pacific in general is a great place to work. Beautiful place to work as well.
Where the heck is Vietnam?
It is
just south of China.
Yeah.
Just south of China, just up from Malaysia.
Is it on that thing?
Yeah, zoom out.
Got a lot of cracks of the world on this map.
I know. I'm trying to look through all the faults.
That's the southern tip of China right there. Where the heck's Vietnam?
Nah, Vietnam would be
right there where your arrow is right now.
Right here.
A little bit further south, I think. Oh yeah, like there.
Oh, this thing right here.
Yeah.
Wow, you live on the plate tectonic equator, man.
Yes. Correct.
Wow.
We had to throw geology in here at some point. That was
Where are they?
We're like, the most consistent daylight hours, dark versus daylight. It's from 12 hours to 13 hours and like 15 minutes all year long. So we only have an hour and 15 minutes of change. We're that close to the equator.
So just to because I completely forgot because I brain farted. So you said you live in the southern end of Vietnam, so like towards like Ho Chi Minh, like
If you look where Ho Chi Minh is, I live in
Mhm.
a place called Vong Tau. It's like due east on all the way on the coast from Ho Chi
Okay,
Minh City. So it's an hour
okay,
and a half by road from Ho Chi Minh City to Vong Tau to home.
gotcha. That's
Wow.
awesome. That is awesome. I've had a bunch of friends visit Vietnam, and they've all told me that it is, it was one of their best, like the tourist, even on the tourist side, it was one of the best places they've ever visited as far as just beauty, the people, I mean, just everything about it.
It's a growing. It is. It's still enough behind a company or a country like Thailand that is very touristic, where their economy is a lot based on it. It's still a little bit behind Thailand, so it's more comfortable, I guess, to me. But also, yeah, it's moving like the economy is moving at the speed of light.
Yeah.
It is crazy how
But it,
fast things move here, and not in like day-to-day life. I mean, it is people do things and work is done like oil and gas wise, not coming from the Gulf of Mexico where you get shit done. You have to, that's what you're taught. Do now. Here was 100% change where I came in and I went like do, and they looked at me like, we don't do that here. You just tell me do, and 12 hours later I'll do, or
Yeah.
we'll get it done when we get to it, sort of thing. So it is a relaxed atmosphere, but the economy is it's just growing crazy fast.
wow. What's the strength of the economy of Vietnam? What is that? Is it metals?
Actually, a lot of electronic manufacturing just moved from China. Samsung and Apple have major manufacturing facilities here.
Wow.
Clothing manufacturers, of course, the farming industry. A lot gets exported, and coffee. That is purely a Vietnamese thing, but yeah, I think they're the number one, at least number two exporter of coffee in the world now. So yeah, it's
I didn't know that.
a lot of manufacturing, definitely on the electronic side, moved here. Even, especially within the last 9 months, 10 months, due to this whole COVID craziness,
Well,
and the fact that Vietnam, they sort of controlled things very quickly. I mean, we had Chinese New Year in the beginning of February here, and our children were off school for 2 weeks for that, and they never opened back up school due to COVID. Then they said, "Okay, stay home, kids. We're going to start like doing due diligence." They weren't blocking planes or cars or any of that, but they were starting to sort of make plans to, in case something happened. They didn't want to be overwhelmed.
Yeah, they got ahead of it. That's good.
They got ahead of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Man, it's interesting to think about why oil and gas is kind of coming back. It seems like investment communities kind of getting excited about it again. Operators are starting to think about picking up assets, and you're seeing some movement for sure. Service companies are starting to hire again. It's definitely getting interesting. And then you raised an interesting point to that is, you start moving manufacturing to different countries. I mean, the amount of energy it takes to keep all this going efficiently, relying on the stable energy of hydrocarbon, it seems like we're going to have a great rebound from this, and we're going to be able to come right back into the game and move everything forward. And it's not going to be just this crazy knee-jerk reaction that COVID makes it feel like it is. I feel like there's some let's put our foot on the oil and gas industry's head while it's down with this COVID shutdown, and we don't need hydrocarbons as much anymore, and the global demand will never be the same. I don't think so, folks. Got a little ahead of ourselves here.
Yeah. Especially once
I
the machine
think,
starts rolling again.
For sure. I mean, so many things around us are made from petroleum products or byproducts of petroleum. So this machine is not going away quickly by any means. Um, uh, Definitely the oversupply, versus demand thing during COVID. That's what really threw things into a tailspin.
Yeah.
Was we had so much supply and then no demand with no planes flying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like,
But what's happened is that's come from 2015. It was already a cycle from 2015. So basically, we had almost 5 years, with the exception of 2017, 2018, okay years. We had 5 years of times where we did less exploration drilling than we did, in many years. So we're deficient in the amount of wells that we've now explored for and new plays over this last year. So I think now what we're seeing is that of operators going, oh shit. Now when the supply does pick back up, where after the supply starts running, where are we getting all these new plays that we should have been exploring for? So I think that's sort of what we're seeing with the new tenders, coming forward right now. I hope I'm right on that anyway. I mean, there sure are a lot of signs. I've heard of half a dozen in the last week, at different parts of the world. So that's completely opposite of what I thought. I thought 21 was going to be like a really drag ass year, and a very hard hit year, which would take, maybe even 2 years, 3 years to recover. But also due to the fact that so many people are now, gone from the industry, they're not coming back. They're tired of the ups and downs of what it's done. And this is, according to a friend of mine, Tom McRae, in Scotland, or I think he's sitting in California now, but he's Scottish. He said in 40 years of oil and gas, this is the worst downturn he's ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
He estimated 300,000 globally, and I would say 300,000 to 400,000 people affected, and that's just oil and gas people. So yeah, whatever percentage stays out, and the percentage that stays, that stayed in, the ones of us that stayed in, I think are going to have a positive year to look forward to this coming year.
Yeah. Agreed, man. Well, I have certainly enjoyed this this show with you. We've come to the end of the completion segment of the PBE podcast with Grant Pierce, and your story was incredible. It was an honor to share this time with you, and thank you for enlightening me and giving me some inspiration for 2021, man.
Thanks so much for having me on. This was super enjoyable. Yeah,
This was a blast.
Like I said, first time that I've really told the story to anybody, especially in this form, but yeah, have even told the full story to. So it's interesting. I appreciate you guys' time as well.